you are going to see things just like magically happen for you because the universe says, oh, wow, she's having fun. Let's give her more things to have fun with. Welcome to Collective Guidance with your host, Charla Goodnight. This is a space where we come together to share wisdom, stories, and insights from thought leaders and everyday humans alike. Here, you'll find conversations on spirituality, health, wellness, parenting, and the human experience, all designed to remind you that you are not alone and that we are all connected. Let's step into the guidance we can only find together. Welcome to Collective Guidance with your host, Charla Goodnight. On this episode of Collective Guidance, we're going to talk about energy. Most importantly, we're going to talk about being energy sensitive, feeling other people's energy or the world's energy, and how we can stay grounded and awake during challenging times. My guest today is Clair-Hayes. Kathy is a seasoned psychotherapist, astrologer, and energy intuitive. She works with people who are energy sensitive to help them understand their elemental energies they were born with and how to stay grounded so they can discover and develop their own, that's right, your own intuitive voice and wisdom. Let's dive into it. What energy sensitives need to know, how to stay grounded and awake during challenging times. Welcome, Kathy. I am so happy to have you here. You know that I'm a huge fan, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Charla.
Maybe some people don't know. What do you mean about being energy sensitive?
So, these are people who consider themselves deeply compassionate, empathic. I would include empaths in that, people who feel that they have psychic gifts. Anyone who feels that they kind of are tapped into other people's energies. You know what people are feeling. You might get a sense of what people are thinking. But for a lot of us, we just kind of operate in the world thinking everyone feels this way. And it's not true. Some of us are more sensitized than others. And it's kind of a unique superpower, but we have to unlearn what we learned as kids, which a lot of us learned to be energy sensitive as kids because we grew up in environments where either we had dysregulated parents or we had parents we needed to take care of, or we learned to read the environment for safety or to understand what was happening to us. And if you were an energy sensitive kid and your parents weren't attuned to your sensitivities, a lot of times you were told you're too sensitive. Like, stop, don't cry. Like, you're too sensitive. Don't feel so much. And so we learned to shut down some of those gifts, or we learned that it was our responsibility to take care of others based on what we were feeling from the field. And people who are energy sensitive are picking up things in what we call the quantum field, the field in between people, the field in between us and things. It's kind of the field that surrounds all of us. And so as adults, we have to start learning to understand that the energy that we're feeling is really frequency and it's information, but we don't have to do anything with it. We don't have to make someone feel better. We don't have to respond and act when we feel energy. We just have to allow it, to acknowledge it, and allow it to pass. And so it made me a really good therapist to be energy sensitive because I could sense and feel what my clients were feeling, even if they weren't talking about it. But I had to relearn and understand it as taking in information versus absorbing it into my field, because what happened is, a lot of therapists get burned out because we are in people's energy all day long. And if we're not taking care of our own energy and understanding that we connect for the time that we're together and then disconnect and honor kind of what happened, but not be holding the person's energy. Otherwise, if we do that, we can get exhausted. And I can tell you I worked 20 years at Harvard Teaching Medical Hospital in Boston, a level 1 trauma center. And I was exhausted and really anxious and depressed for a good part of that time because I was in the fields of a lot of trauma while I was working there. I can remember I'd walk into the hospital and immediately I would feel like I had to walk faster. Like there was just this buzzy, urgent energy always around. And so for those of us who are energy sensitive, sometimes we have to think differently about how we're working and where we're working and why we're working. For me, I learned pretty quickly when I left the hospital and started working on my own that this idea that we have a consistent amount of energy all day long is really bonkers. It doesn't really work for people, that we all have natural flow and ebbs to our energy. So for me, I have energy in the morning and I have energy in the afternoon, but like between 1 and 4 is my low energy time. So now that I have a private practice, I don't schedule clients between those hours because those are the hours that I use to take care of myself, or that I might take a class, or I might do some reading or something else, something where I don't have to listen intently because my energy for that day, that time of day is lower. I have to be really present when I'm with clients and I'm working with them. So, I think for those of us who are energy sensitive, we pick up things and we hold things. And so part of this process is learning to understand what your sensitivities are, understanding how your own intuitive process works, and to really get good at clearing your energy field and letting go of things that you don't need to keep holding on to. And for a lot of us, we just, our brains get used to holding on to stories, and we can hold on to stories and hold on to energy in particular ways that keep us stuck. And so that's what I'm really have learned, both through my own work, in therapy with people, but through astrology in particular, that we're all born with a natal chart. No two charts are alike. And we're all like different snowflakes, and we all are wired differently, right? Some of us have more water. Some of us have more fire. You have a lot of fire. I have a lot of water. So you and I are wired differently. So what you and I need to ground our energy fields might be different based on kind of what's happening in our lives and what's going on in our charts in that way. So I think helping people understand, and once I understood that I had a grand trine in water, I was like, oh, wow, I really do tap into other people's energies. I have this kind of psychic ability to do that. And it's great if I can do that while I'm working. But I don't need to do it all the time, though, right? And so I had to learn how to kind of manage that and turn that off, except when I wanted to have it, to access it. And then I also had to learn how to, after I met with someone, a client, to really be able to kind of close that connection, to close that field and allow it to dissipate, allow it to call my energy back to me so that it wasn't staying with clients. I can remember as a younger therapist feeling like if I was thinking about clients or families like all the time, it was because I was really intuitive and because, I was getting information about them. No, I was stuck in their energy fields and it was exhausting. So I'm really conscious about when I work with people to have it open while we're together and then to release it when we're done working. And at the end of the day, a lot of times if I've seen a lot of clients, I'll take a salt bath because that's for me the best way to clear my energy field. And it's amazing. Like I wish I would have known that 20 years ago. Anyone who's a therapist, take a salt bath if you're exhausted after you work, because there's something about that process that clears the energy field and allows you to be present to your own energies. Because what happens is when we're mucked up in everyone else's energies and everyone else's story and everyone else's drama and trauma, our systems get hijacked. So we're oftentimes in our own trauma or anxious response, and then we can't hear our own intuitive voice. And so a lot of this work is calling your energy back to you and getting really clear about what's your energy and what's someone else's energy. So, and for a lot of people, they're unaware that that's what they think that's how everyone's wired. And that's not actually true. I get that a lot in couples when I have one person in the couple who's super intuitive and they'll say to me, why do I have to tell my partner that? They should just know that. I know that about them. And I'll say, unless your partner's psychic, there's no way they're going to know that without you telling them. So we have to get used to voicing our feelings. Just because we're feeling it doesn't mean anyone else is picking it up. Right. So, yeah. But it's been a journey, I think. And I think part of why we have so much anxiety and depression in the world is because people are actually becoming more energy sensitive and no one's teaching them how to manage their fields, how to manage their energy, how to know when they're overwhelmed and what to do to get their bodies to kind of come back to ground, when they're aware of that.
Yeah. So you would say all of your experience in psychotherapy has contributed to you understanding this, but then astrology and looking at your astrological chart really brought that even more into play.
Yeah, because I see the natal chart as a map of your energy. It gives a map of how you're wired. It gives a map of what you're attracted to. It gives a map of who you are. And so, for those of us who I'm a Taurus sun. I think my first astrology reading, the astrologer Kiki said to me, oh, you always stay too long. And I thought, because I kind of, beat myself up for staying too long at this job, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I can just forgive myself for that. And,
Yeah.
as someone who has a lot of Sag energy is going to be big and bold and say things they don't mean, blurts, out. And so if you know that about yourself, you can just stop beating yourself up about like, why do I do this? Well, that's who you are. That's how you're wired, So let's just accept the gifts of it. I think every energy and planet in the chart has a higher and lower consciousness too. So if you know that, like a Virgos can be deeply healing and super like create systems and all kinds of wonderful things, but they can be super judgy and critical, right?
Yeah.
So like if you're like, oh, I'm a Virgo,
I
therefore I'm
can't.
only super judgy and critical. No, well, that's the lower energy. Yeah. If you're doing that, let's shift and change that. But let's get you to a place where you're actually in more of a healing place where you're creating systems for yourself or others that help you kind of manage things.
Yeah.
So I think, everything can evolve, right? That's why we're all here. We're all here to grow and evolve. And so no matter where you are in your journey, if you feel like you're at the bottom, like the only way to go is up. If you feel like you've been up, but things are tipping, like you're just being invited into a new journey. You're being invited into a new chapter. So don't despair. There's a way to shift and change it. And a lot of, I think, what I've also learned is doing a deeper dive into Joe Dispenza's work and working with his healthcare coalition has
Hmm.
really taught me a lot about, therapy has to answer for some of the things that we've kind of been doing for a number of years, which is as a therapist, of course, I'm going to listen to my clients, but how often and how long am I going to let them sit in a story? How long am I going to let them sit in a story that keeps them small and stuck and depressed and anxious? Or can we start to shift and change this? Like, let's get to know what the story is. Let's have the experience so you feel heard and listened to as you know that story. But then if I keep hearing the story, I'm going to encourage you. Who do you want to be? How do you want to feel? How do you want to think? Because the reality is we have a map in front of us. And when we get triggered or get called back to a past experience, we are in the past. And oftentimes we're in a stress or trauma response when that's happening.
Mm.
Or we get worried about the future, something we can't control or know. So we spend a lot of time worrying about that. When's this job going to happen? When's this relationship going to happen? And the reality is when we're doing that, we're not actually in the present. And the only place we can make changes is in the present, right? And so we have to work to get really clear on when we're getting pulled to either place, and then get really good about feet on the ground, grounded here, present. What am I feeling in the here and now? Oh, I don't like that. That's a limiting thought. Well, do you want to, you're the author of your own life. Do you want to change that? Yeah. So let's not just change the thought. Let's change how you want to feel about the thought. Let's change about like you want to feel that life is giving and expansive and evolving and abundant and that there's love and friends. And yeah, that's what I want to feel. Okay. So when you're feeling that and thinking that, what are you doing? How are you acting? Because the reality is our brain doesn't know if we're practicing something that hasn't happened yet. It thinks it's happening now. So let's get our brain firing and wiring those neurons so we're actually mapping more towards that future versus what we've already experienced in the past, which oftentimes is disappointment, hurt, trauma, whatever dramas happened, lack. And so we don't need to practice more of that. We've all lived that. We have that. But we have to get good on not letting our minds go unconscious where we just kind of fall into those old patterns.
I am loving absolutely everything. I mean, you are turning me on, sister. I am like, please, can I just snuggle up next to you and hug you? So all of this is great, right? But what if a person that's listening right now is having trouble coping with everything that's going on
Yeah.
in their world? Not necessarily the world, but their world, because whatever we expose ourselves to, right, it
Yeah.
becomes the world as we see it.
Right.
It's not necessarily the world never stays the same in every second. It's the individual's world.
Right.
So if they are having a problem coping with, if they feel like it's chaos, what can they do to shift?
Yeah. So a lot of times when we're having those experiences, we are in a high stress state. And when we're in a high stress state, our brains go to the place of looking for information and details. And so our vision actually gets more narrow. So if you are, I'm trying to think of an example, like if you're in a fight with your partner and you're obsessing over the fight and all you can think about is the fight, guess what? You're not paying attention to anything else that's going on. You're only paying attention to what happened, how you felt, how, and a lot of times we're in our heads having conversations that we didn't have. Oh, I should have said that. I should have said that. And, the whole kind of thing, so our energy systems are all wrapped up and we're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And guess what? We're staying in that heightened state of stress. So the only way to get out of that is to actually take your attention off whatever you have your attention on and get wider, get bigger, go for a walk. Decide, I'm not going to think about this for 20 minutes. Like, get out of the experience, change your environment, go put your feet on the ground and take a couple deep breaths. Go hang out with your pet, call a friend and talk about something else. Whatever it is to disengage from that energy, kind of suck it, that motion that's keeping you spiraling in this thing. It's when we're spiraling, we have to get really good at noticing, A, I'm spiraling, and B, thinking more about this is not going to help me get out of the spiral. It's going to actually make it worse. So the only way to get out of the spiral, change your breathing. When we are having stressful thoughts, we go into an automatic stress response. It's hardwired. It's what helped us to survive the dinosaurs. A dinosaur was chasing us. All of our energy went towards moving away from that dinosaur, freezing so it couldn't see us, running away, fighting it, whatever it was. But the relaxation response isn't something that comes on automatically. We have to turn it on ourselves. So you can turn it on by taking a deep breath. You can turn it on by doing some somatic practices where you're releasing energy.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah.
Some people may not know what a somatic practice is.
Somatic practices are body practices that are actually like, we don't have to be thinking about what we're releasing. You just have to allow the body to have different experiences and it's releasing energy. So like bouncing on the balls of your feet is a way to release energy in your body. Yawning, can be a way to release energy. Humming can be something that like soothes the vagal.
Tapping.
Tapping can do that.
It's so funny. When the boys were younger and I was at the grocery store with them,
doing this
tapping.
Or doing this kind of movement. Like there's a lot of, you can find them all online. There's all different kinds of things that people can do to kind of soothe their energy systems. But what we just have to know is it's not a time for us to be thinking more. Like it's a time for us to step back and to actually try to loosen our hold on whatever thought is happening. Because as long as we're in the stress response and we're thinking about that, it's going to keep us revved up and hooked into it. Right? And there's a lot of things in our world that are hooking our nervous systems. Phones, the news, whatever drama and trauma of the moment is. Oftentimes we can get addicted to like relationships that have drama in it too. And so the first experience is like, can I step back and can I just calm my nervous system down? I oftentimes put my hand on my heart and tap my heart and I call all my energy back to me. I say to myself, I'm calling all my energy back to me, and I take a couple deep breaths. I imagine the energy running down my spine into the earth and grounding me. Sometimes I'll even imagine I'm a huge tree with like really deep roots, and I'll just breathe down into those roots. And then I can kind of step back and then observer, which is looking at the whole of the picture. What do you want to do? How do you want to respond?
So hold on one second. Some people may not know what observer means.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah. So the observer, you develop the observer over time. And oftentimes I think two great practices to develop the observer are yoga or meditation. And the observer is the part of your brain the part of you that's like watching what you're doing. So a lot of us have an observing ego, so that we'll know when we said something to a friend and, it didn't land right. We might have felt how they felt. We might have seen that it didn't land right. And we have this ability like, I wish I would have said it this way, or I wish I would have said. So some of us have that. A few people don't. And these are the people that like, no matter what you tell them, they just don't get like why someone got hurt or why someone was upset or whatever. So some people aren't wired that way, but for the most of us, we are. And I think everyone can develop the observer, and the observer is your curiosity about like, why was that so upsetting to me? I wonder what story that triggered in me. I wonder why my energy got unconsciously hooked into that. And then, do I want to keep putting energy towards that? Because where you put your energy is where you put your attention. So if you have drama in your life, how much energy are you attending to the drama? How much energy are you putting towards the drama? Or can you pull your energy back and say, like, actually, you know what? Today I'm going to focus my energy on this. And this is what I'm calling in, and this is what I'm paying attention to. And then because your brain's been used to paying attention to drama, you're going to have this little time where you're going to be like, unconsciously, oh, damn, I missed it. I got hooked into the drama again. And maybe it happens 2 days later that you notice, but eventually it'll start catching up where it's 1 day later. Then you get to the point where it's in the moment and you think like, do I want to keep putting my energy into this, or can I step back and make a different choice? Sometimes the different choice is just taking a deep breath and not engaging.
Yeah. And Wayne Dyer, I love this question. Right now, in what I'm about to say or do my desires stem from my higher self or my lower self? And I love that quote. And it is about, once you get control of the observer, then before you act, you can ignite that observer. Yeah.
I mean, so I think part of why I love Joe Dispenza's work so much is because what he's having people do is he's having you practice ahead of time. So that then when you are in these situations again, like you can make a difference. Your brain is a little bit more wired to think more flexibly versus just doing what it's always done, which is what our brains do to protect us, to like, nope, I'm going to choose this,
And leading with the heart with it, heart-centered,
Yeah.
awaken the brain.
Yeah.
Let's talk about depression and anxiety. And is it a normal response to
today's world?
Yeah, today's world, like the social media, everything. Is it a normal response to what we're going through? It wasn't like this 15 years ago.
Right. I mean, it wasn't like this, because we weren't all talking about it too, but I think there was less chaos. Whether there was less chaos or we just didn't know about the chaos, that might have been the difference. Now we all know about it, and it's 24/7. I also think people's energy systems are becoming more sensitive. And so if you're unaware of that sensitivity and you just keep doing what you've always done, you keep pushing and thinking, I have to do more, I have to be more, I have to work more, I have to take care of everyone else's needs, you just get exhausted. And when you get exhausted, your field implodes a bit, and then you have anxiety and depression typically. And we all have those sporadic periods, right? But when you are in these patterns where you're not changing and shifting what you're doing or what you're thinking or how you're responding or putting yourself first, so you're putting your own oxygen on, you're more susceptible to end up in a pattern where your field is depleted. And then you start showing up that way all over the place, or you don't have the energy to go to work, or you can only think about the things that are stressing you out. And so I think for a lot of people, part of I think the anxiety and depression is downstream of us not attending to our energy fields more in the day-to-day. And then over time, it develops into these patterns. And depression has a particular way, and anxiety does too, of talking to us. And it will hook your brain and it gets you into stories. I'm not good enough. No one likes me. I don't work hard enough. I'm not successful enough. Where it's very much of a lack story. And the anxiety will tell you that you have to do something now, that you have to think about it, that you can't slow down, that you can't step away from it because it's too important. And those two particular patterns hook your brain in a particular way that kind of hardwire what you're thinking and feeling. And if you have had depressive patterns for most of your life, you actually don't know what it feels like to not be depressed. Right? Sometimes if I have a client who's, especially anxiety, if they have been anxious for most of their life, and I say to them, you don't have to think about it this way. And they're kind of like, what are you talking about? There's no way I can't think about it. So if they get on medication, this is sometimes where medication can be helpful because it gives them the ability to be like, oh, I'm having this experience where I'm not having to think about it all the time. And then guess what? Then you can work with them to teach them skills to actually step back from something and not think about it. But until then, they believe everything their brain is telling them. And I think half of what we all have to realize is our brain's making shit up. It's in an old story, right? It's just making stuff up. Especially if we're on the hamster wheel all the time. And so the only way to kind of really get clear on what your brain is what your brain and heart are thinking. I mean, this is the other thing is when your brain's doing that, it's not coherent. So you actually can't trust it because it's not reading information the right way. It's not reading it holistically or truly. And so the only way to do that is to get off the hamster wheel, to get back to ground, to do practices that help your system actually feel pause. When you are paused, are you calm? Or are you feeling, I need to be checking my phone? I need to be doing this, or I need to be doing that. That's a sign that your system is not really grounded. When your system is grounded, you can be quiet. When your system is grounded, you're okay with like waiting for information, for, something to drop in, for the next thing to do. But so much of our systems are hooked to be on fire all the time. And things like technology, things like gaming, those types of things can hook our systems where we feel we need more and more and more of it. And so we just have to really work hard to find our balance between what's my balance between needing to know what's going on in the world and having a little fun on social media and doing these things versus spending an hour on social media and then realizing like, wow, I just meant to check one thing and I got hooked down the rabbit hole. Like, when do you become conscious? It's been an hour. Can you become conscious after 5 minutes? We all do it. They're created to make us do that. So we just have to become more savvy with like using it to help us do whatever we're hoping to do,
And this is all about managing your energetics.
Right. If you're on social media and you're exhausted, guess what? It's not helping you.
Right.
If you are using social media to be like, let me, have some funny puppies or other things like that.
Oh my God, I love dog videos.
Yeah, hack your algorithm so it works for you. You know what I mean? And if you're getting stuff in your algorithm you don't like, start unfollowing or unliking things that are bringing that to you. Like, make it work for you,
Yeah.
But I think for all of us, like, the only way we can start hearing our intuitive voice, which is going to guide us about what we need to do and who we need to be with and how we need to spend our time, is to get grounded and oftentimes quiet. Now someone's quiet, your quiet might be different than my quiet. Your quiet might be like you're journaling and you're getting information and it feels like it lands, like it feels like it's right. That might be your quiet. My quiet might be sitting in silence and getting one word. Each person's different. They have to figure out kind of what works for them.
And can that be movement?
It could be movement. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think, listen, there's sign. Everyone has, when you start talking to people who are working with their intuition, there are body signs that you're hooked into something, that you're receiving something. People get chills. Some people hear like a high-pitched frequency in their ears. There'll just be this knowing. You'll know what someone's going to say before they say it. You'll see something, you'll be like, that's a sign. Like, there's particular, as you start working on this, you'll start to kind of learn your own body's cues. And then it's important to pay attention to those. So what can people do to work on their intuition? I mean, first of all, I think you have to ground your energy system. You have to get to a place where you can be quiet, where you can step back, where you can turn on that observer and be. And when the observer's on, it doesn't have a lot of feeling. It's observing. Oh, isn't this interesting? I'm feeling this. Or isn't it interesting? I'm having this thought. Or isn't it interesting that this is happening? It's curiosity. Wonder why that's coming up. Why am I feeling this? What's happening here? And you might not get an answer right away, but it's just acknowledging it and then letting it go. Sometimes it brings the answer later in the day. Sometimes a friend calls later and you're like, that's the answer. So a piece of this is actually allowing for there to be energies and things that are in the field that you're not aware of, And so if you are like, I'm having this problem, I cannot figure out the answer. If you're kind of in your intuition, you're saying like, there must be, Joe Dispenza would say, there must be an answer in the quantum field. There must be something I haven't thought about in the quantum field.
Yeah, definitely.
So when I'm saying intuition, I'm actually saying like you are connecting to a field of energy with all possibilities exist. And if you can just allow for that and say like, I'm connecting to this and this is what's happening. I don't know what the answer is, but this is how I want to feel as it resolves or gets solved or whatever. And then guess what? Like you might actually come to like what you need to do as a part of that, or it might solve itself in some way. Someone calls you and has an answer for something. But a lot of times we get hooked into thinking like we have to do something, that we have to drive something, that we have to make something happen. And if we're working with our energetics, the energy we need to work on is let's get out of the stress response. Let's get out of lack or like scarcity, or that something's not going right because of who I am or whatever story I'm telling myself. And let's get really clear on what you do want to have happen. How do you want to feel? How do you want to show up?
Yeah, I love
And if
that.
we put our energy towards that, guess what? Things happen.
Things
Fields shift, things
change.
change. It
Yeah.
might not be exactly what you wanted, but I'm actually at the point where I like less put in my intention about what I want and more just how I want to feel. And I kind of leave it to like, I actually don't care how this gets done. I just need it to be shifted.
Because infinite possibilities on how it gets done. You don't have to say, I need XYZ to happen.
Right.
I want to feel vibrant and healthy, or I feel I am, that is the biggest
Right.
thing.
And
I am.
when I am vibrant, when I am healthy, what am I doing? I'm going to the gym. I'm excited to like exercise. I'm excited to be active. I'm excited, whatever it is, that you kind of imagine yourself doing those. What are you wearing? Who are you with? Like get really specific because it helps the brain focus in on like, this is what we're mapping to, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And then everything shifts. Yeah.
I mean, what I love working with clients is that, a lot of times people fight me on this when we first start. And then eventually I just said, let's just try it. Let's just see what happens. Like if you can bring playfulness to it, if you bring kind of a curiosity to it, and then like things happen and people are like, whoa.
Well,
and we have to deal with the fact that actually maybe we're a little bit more powerful than we realize.
my nose is itching. And
Was that one of your signs?
Yeah, that is one of my signs. It's kind of like an I dream of Jeannie thing. It's so weird. It is so weird. It came to me in like 2016.
Yeah.
My nose started twitching when things just felt so aligned and so real. I was going to say, when you bring joy into your life every single day, and you be the playful character in your experience in life, you are going to see things just like magically happen for you, because the universe says, oh, wow, she's having fun. Let's give her more things to have fun with. Right. And whether it's health, abundance, love, anything that you desire, when you have that joy, that pep in your step, and you're like, yeah, let's do it. The universe responds.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're in the worrying, like if you're worried about something, if you're like, where's that next money going to come from? Where's that next thing going to happen? Guess what the universe gives you? More to worry about. Part of it is like, become responsible. Where are you putting your energy? And if listen, this is hard to do sometimes if you're stuck in patterns. Like oftentimes people do need to have a therapist or a friend or a coach or some kind of in a class or do something to help them start to have different experiences. Because it does take work. You're unfiring and wiring things that have just been on autopilot for a long time. And so, but that's the exciting part of it, is like you can shift and change. You don't have to there's nothing in your chart that says you have to show up in a particular way in the world. Like everything is about evolving towards more light, more love, more wholeness, and if that's what we all started to focus on, imagine what our world would be. Because right now our world is focused on a lot of lack and how we're different and not enough. And some people have and some people don't. And I don't mean to make light of all the hard things that are happening in the world. There's some really horrible things that are happening.
Yeah.
But we can get hooked into those stories and feel despondent. Or we can say, you know what, both and. These hard things are happening. And let me be really clear. I'm going to hold my frequency here. And I'm mapping here because I believe in hope. And I believe that we can have a better world. And I believe we can have compassion. And I believe we can celebrate our humanity, that we're all humans together. And we all have gifts and medicine to share.
Yeah.
And we can't do that if we are stuck in these lower vibrational patterns.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like the Rumi quote, there's a field and I'll meet you out there.
Yeah.
And in the field, everything is everything is love. So, where can listeners learn more about you? How can they work with you?
Yeah.
Everybody needs more Kathy. Okay, let's face it. I mean, if I know that if I'm going through a moment, I know I can call Kathy, and number one, she's gonna tell me, actually, Charla, this is what's going on in your chart. And then she gives me a great coaching session. And you are a phenomenal coach, by the way. So where can listeners learn more? How can they connect with you? How can they work with you?
Yeah, I mean, I would just go to my website, kathyclairhayes.com right now. It's my mental health practice, but there's a way to contact me off of that or to sign up for a free phone consultation or video consultation. And we can just talk about working together. I do individual therapy, I do couples therapy, but I also am expanding into more kind of intuitive and somatic and astrological coaching because it allows me to help people from all over the world. So,
Right.
even if you're not in my licensure place, like there's ways for us to work together. And you get me as I am. Like I'm not different as a therapist as I am as a coach. I show up with the same skills and the same attention to what's happening in the field. But, I am going to ask you to transform. I'm not going to allow you to kind of come and be as you have been. Right.
Well, you're not going to have them come in and be in a cocoon and not expect them to
Right.
then turn into a butterfly.
Right. Right.
Like,
Yeah, we have to repattern some of the old things so you can actually believe that you're lovable and believe that you have power and believe, all these things. But you're the one who's doing the work. People set their own, path. And sometimes we have a lot of work to undo in the past to understand why we think certain ways. But then once that's done, we get pretty clear on where we're going. So it doesn't have to take years and years and years anymore like it used to.
yeah. And Spirit said to me once, if you want that which you desire, you have to do the work.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the work of serving others, while I do believe that that is a very important work for each of us. The real work, though, is on ourselves.
Yeah.
And so doing the work on yourself is how you're going to get that which you desire in life and live a great life, grounded and
presence, like ready for whatever magic and miracles are going to happen. That if we're stressed out, we don't see them,
And it doesn't mean that things aren't going to come up, but you're just going to be able to navigate it with more ease.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Kathy, for your presence, for your wisdom, for your insight. I am just in immense gratitude to know you, to be in your presence, to have spent time with you. And you're just really a light for this world and everyone. And if anyone wants to work with Kathy, find her on her website, kathyclairhayes.com. It'll also be in the show notes. And if you liked this episode, I would be so honored for you to click the like button and also comment and share it and subscribe to the podcast. But most importantly, we're here for you. We're grateful for your presence, and you can find us on social media at Collective Guidance Podcast or on our website, collectiveguidance.com. And with love, gratitude, joy, and most importantly, groundedness. I think we can all take away how important it is for us to be grounded. Thank you for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful day and grateful for your presence. Thank you for joining me today on Collective Guidance. I hope you feel lighter, more inspired, and deeply connected to your own path. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Collective Guidance or our website, collectiveguidance.com. If this episode resonated with you, Please share it with a friend and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, may you walk with clarity, courage, joy, and love.